Hey guys, it is Tamara. Thank you so much for coming back to my channel. Welcome back. We're going to start talking today about cognitive distortions and how to work with them and get rid of them. I think you are going to like this video. If you liked Monday's video, then you're definitely going to like today's video because I'm going to teach you how to engage in cognitive behavior therapy. And we're going to start by talking about reality testing. You know, there's a lot of clients that come in to see me who are having trouble with, working with the skewed perceptions that they have and working with some twisted and convoluted parts of their mind. And I honestly think that that's just a curse of being a human being, right? You're going to always have those spots where, you're going to be sensitive, you're going to be a little twisted in some ways, right? Your thinking's going to get skewed, you're tired, your emotions begin to overwhelm you. So in this video, I want to talk a little bit about how to test your reality in a therapeutic way. So thank you so much for coming back to my channel for those who are subscribed. And for those who are new, I encourage you to hit the subscribe button so you can stick around with us. Be a part of our community that's growing almost every single day, and I think it's so cool. Just to throw some stats out there, we gained at least 670 subscribers since the beginning of January, and I think it is so cool. We just, we keep racking up the numbers, and I think the more we participate, guys, the more information that we give, the more comments that we put on the page, the more community posts that we do as a team on this channel, the better it gets, and it gets out into YouTube land, and it allows people to come aboard. So if you are new to the channel, I welcome you, and I encourage you to hit that subscribe button. So the benefits for you in watching today's video is that I'm going to talk about reality testing, and I'm going to make sure that I give you some tips, at least 6 to 7, on how to untwist your thinking. So let's just go ahead and jump in, all right? So when you're dealing with your thoughts, you really have to look at the foundation of everything, right? You really want to look at the foundation of your thoughts. And typically the foundation of your thoughts may be emotions, fatigue, having a trauma history, right? Not really being able to process things objectively, coming from a background that's, really difficult to manage, right? So the foundation of your thoughts really do need to be embraced and well understood so that you can change things, right? I once had a client, and this may have been like 6 or 7 years ago, I had a client who struggled a lot with objectivity and objectively looking at things and really evaluating her thoughts. What would happen is she would engage in this cognitive distortion, which is emotional reasoning, and her emotions would do the thinking for her. She never really had a chance to pause and then react, right? She would just react. It was a very impulsive process for her. Another way to look at this would be, somebody cuts you off on the road. Instead of pausing and saying, you know what, maybe that person's having a bad day, maybe they didn't mean to do it, maybe I just need to cool off, you react, okay? That's emotional reasoning. And if you have an inability to pause, pump the brakes, like I always say, guys, and really put into action your objective thought processes, you will respond. And then later you're going to be sorry, or you're going to feel really bad about yourself because you allowed your emotions to reason for you, okay? So let's just go ahead and jump in with these tips, okay? I don't want this to be a really long video for you. And then on Friday, we're going to talk a little bit more about things that you can do to help yourself as well, okay? I think you guys are really liking these videos with tips. So the first way to challenge some of those cognitive distortions that we talked about in this video right up here, the first thing that I want you to do is get a piece of paper, get a notebook, get a scrap paper, whatever you have to write on, get a pen, a marker, and do a cost-benefit analysis, okay? And a cost-benefit analysis is basically looking at the pros and the cons of doing something, right? The costs are the pros, the and the benefits, and the cons, are those things that are just going to sink you if you do what you want to do based on your emotion. Okay, so a cost-benefit analysis, really what you're doing is you're weighing the scales. Is this really worth it? Nah, looks like we're going too much down towards the cons. Maybe I shouldn't, maybe I shouldn't react. If you find that the scales are tipping in a good way, fantastic, right? So what you want to do is you want to pause and you want to do a cost benefit analysis, okay? And that's actually going to be Friday's video. I'm going to show you how to do it, so stick around for that. The next thing that I want you to do, okay, is exhaust all options and possibilities. One of the things that we tend to do as humans is we go off of assumption, rumors, what we believe, what we feel, and when that happens, guys, I gotta get this. Give me 1 second, okay? Sorry, guys. I have to take that phone call. This is the life of a therapist, right? I can do videos, I can do paperwork, but then when the phone rings and I look and I see caller ID saying it's an emergency, then I gotta go. So thank you for being patient with me. All right, so let's just go ahead and continue. I think the next tip that I gave you was exhaust all options and possibilities, right? And what I mean by that is before you jump the gun and react emotionally, before you say something, before you think of something that may get you in a rut, right? Because sometimes a simple thought can trigger behaviors and emotions, and we're going to talk about the thought triangle coming up here in the next week. What I want you to do, and I tell all my clients to do this, is exhaust all options and possibilities. Before you react, you want to look at all the possible reasons for why something has occurred, right? So let me give you an example. So let's say you don't like your mother-in-law or you don't like your father-in-law. You tend to see them in a negative way. You know, you tend to really not give them the benefit of the doubt, right? So let's say, you know, they make a statement about your name or they make a statement about who you are as a person. And the first thing you think is, wow, that was a dig. That was a real dig. I do not like that. I think they were really trying to offend me. Before you get off on that road, the one thing that you want to practice and kind of condition yourself to do. Remember I said in the previous video, condition yourself to win? Well, you want to condition yourself to win in this way by pausing, pumping the brakes, and considering all possibilities and options, right? What did they really mean by that? Well, maybe they meant to make a joke out of this, or maybe they meant it a different way. Maybe it's a compliment and I couldn't see it at first, or maybe they were really trying to make a point but they didn't think about how it could offend me. So you want to be able to exhaust all possibilities and options before you respond, okay? The next thing is check and recheck your reality. And what I mean by that is you want to check the first time, and if it doesn't add up, check the second time. If it still doesn't add up, check one more time, because sometimes I have to check 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 more times before I clearly get a situation of what has happened. So yeah, sometimes it's really good to check and then recheck, and you may have to do this with somebody else. So that's my next tip: consult. And you want to be able to consult with somebody who you trust, who's objective, who's reasonable, who's stable emotionally, psychologically, and you want to consult with them and say, hey, so this is what happened, hear me out. What would you do if you were in this situation? Or what do you think is happening in this scenario? You can also take it to your therapist if you have one, right? You can say, look, therapist, this is what happened, and I'm really starting to think, it's this way, and I feel like this is what it is. Your therapist can say, excuse me, no, let's pump the brakes and let's look at all the possibilities. So when you consult, right, you're really utilizing your objective resources, because without consultation, you're going to think about it in a way that maybe it's not. So sometimes you need to consult, okay? The next thing is work with your emotions and then go to the logical reasoning side. So if you're heightened in your emotions and you're upset and you're angry and you're feeling betrayed, then you want to calm that storm, right? You want to work with your emotions and soothe and calm yourself down. Then go back to thinking about the situation. And if you find that the simple process of thinking about the situation upsets you, angers you, makes you feel threatened and overwhelmed, then you really do want to try to consult and get somebody else's view on it, okay? And the next one is journal and record your thoughts about the situation, okay? So let's say that you're dealing with the cognitive distortion of emotional reasoning, right? Your emotions are doing the thinking for you. And you really can't find a foundation that's sturdy, right? You're just emotional about the whole thing. So what I usually suggest is that you journal it. You write down the situation and what happened so that you can kind of review it in a sense from a different view. Sometimes when you write things down or you verbalize them, it sounds and looks different than how it is in your mind at the moment, right? So the next way that you could do that, or the next thing that you could do, is you could get a recorder or just get your cell phone and hit record and just verbally talk about it on recording and listen to it back. Okay, some people are like, oh, no, I don't want to hear myself, right? Because we sound one way to ourselves sometimes, and other people are like, no, you sound great. So if you don't want to go through that process, then just write it down, right? But you want to be able to play it back. So, you know, the whole purpose of this tip is to be able to hear it from a different perspective or in a different format, so that you can see if you're not seeing it correctly. Because sometimes you can point out your errors, you can point out your biases, you can point out those holes in a situation, in an argument, if you hear it from a different perspective. Okay? And last but not least, get a second opinion. Why wouldn't you get a second opinion for anything else in life? If you get a second opinion for medication, if you get a second opinion for buying a house, if you get a second opinion for a medical procedure, for dating, for marriage, whatever, why wouldn't you get a second opinion for a cognitive distortion that you may be struggling with, right? So let's say, for example, you have the cognitive distortion of polarized thinking or black and white thinking, okay? You're just really biased on the issue and you don't know how to see the gray, right? It's either black or white. It's your way or no way. It's their way or no way, right? It has to be A or B. It has to be 1 or 2. There's no 3, 4, 5, or 6, right? So there's no gray. So let's say you're dealing with that thinking error. That's what it's also called, a thinking error or a cognitive distortion. If you're dealing with that, you know, you really do want to get a second opinion. Is this really what I'm seeing? It's kind of the same thing as consulting, but really, with consulting, you're looking for the other person's perspective on the situation. With getting a second opinion, you're really saying, okay, here's what I really think it is, and here's where I'm firm on this issue. But really what I want to know is, am I seeing this correctly? Okay, so think of consultation as I'm getting your perspective and how you would deal with it. But when I'm getting a second opinion, I'm really trying to understand if I'm seeing this correctly, and if you think I need to change something, or change my view, or change my attitude. Excuse me. So I hope these tips are helpful, guys. I really do strive to give you practical tips that you can use on a daily basis, that you can really practice in daily life. The key to all the tips I give you on this channel, if you hear nothing else, please hear this. The tips that I give you on this channel work if they are consistent. So you have to be consistent in order to see some benefits and to see some progress. Okay, guys? So thank you so much for being with me today in this video. I encourage you to give it a thumbs up and share it if it was helpful to you. And go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can get more videos like this. And I promised myself, in 2020 that we're in, right, that I would ask you to hit the bell button so that every time I post a video, you're going to get that information. So make sure you hit the bell button, because otherwise you're not going to know when I post something new, and that's just going to get you behind. So go ahead and hit that bell button. I will see you on Friday with a cost-benefit analysis video. I'll see you then. Bye.